Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm one of your many hosts, Mark, and joining me today we got Jordan. Hey yo. Hey yo.
Hey, how's it going? I'm very excited to start a cult. That's what we're doing, right?
Yes, sir. Yes. You got my leaflet underneath your door. Well, that's
Okay,
good.
good. Yeah, I knew that's what I was here for.
Yeah. And we also got another attendee, Fuzz.
How's it going? Time to inflict some malice on some people.
Oof, just you start smashing your room and wreck the whole show. I'm just like, well, at least it was topical.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this episode we're doing a Sons of Malice episode. Essentially, I labeled this episode Malice and the Cult of the Doomed Ones. Just kind of my own naming convention if you look at the rhyme of the episodes. But most of this episode is going to be about the Sons of Malice, some other brainstorming stuff, which is going to be fun. We'll get into that in a little bit, but let's do some housekeeping. Very convenient, Jordan, that you're wearing a Lorehammer t-shirt on the live stream, because that's what I want to plug. Go buy some t-shirts, Redbubble. Buy shirts, buy some other stuff. Look at the quality. I bet you bought that thing like 7 years ago and still fits you like a wedding dress.
Yeah, it does actually. But I've actually lost some weight recently, so it fits me a little better than it did like 6 months ago. So
Beauty. Love to see it. Love to see it. Yeah, go buy yourself a shirt and you can like get chicks, I've been told. So, a slick look. Oh, what's that? That cool logo. That's a horrible plug, but we'll carry on.
yeah, and of course, so today's Friday, and of course I come on the Friday episodes, and you can always join me for some whiskey and Warhammer. Let's take a glug together.
Glug, I hate that.
So good. We got an Irish today. We're doing some Irish. So join me for that. And if you are joining us tonight, that would mean you're a member of the Patreon for $2.50 a month. And so for $2.50 a month, you guys can become members of the Imperial Tithe. And you get an ad-free version of the show. For $5 a month, you get the video version.
And if you would also like to join us in the live chat, to join us in the live stream, like I said, join the Patreon. It is absolutely worth it. You get to see all of our wonderful faces, all these wonderful beards, talking about Warhammer all night long.
Oof. Yeah, we got a fun night of talking about Warhammer for sure.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you are here for the live chat, getting to talk to all your friends there that you may have met in the Discord at the end of the show, we'd like to try to do a call-in or two, and you can even join us, talk about our topic for the night, your thoughts on Warhammer, maybe show us a cool miniature you're working on, all that cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Somebody mentioned doing an after-hour Patreon-only hangout type thing. So basically, after the show, there'd be another hour where, me and a couple other people would just hang out. But, we'll see how that goes. It'd be very open to everyone. It'd pretty much be we'd hang out on Discord and make another channel or stream or something. But we'll see what happens with such a thing.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it could be fun. All right. Well, today's episode, Malice, the Cult of the Doomed Ones. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Malice real quick, quick couple words. And then we'll dive right into Doomed Ones. How you worship Malice. Does he give you gifts? How does he corrupt you? Like, Slanish gets me at least by flashing titties in front of my face. And then down the path of chaos I go. But how does Malice get you? We'll find out. And then we'll dive into the forces, the notable forces of the Doomed Ones, which are mostly just the Sons of Malice, really. We'll mention, like, what happens if night houses fall to Malice. That'll be fun to kind of discuss. Also, Beastmen, maybe they have a spot in this whole situation as well. But yeah, we'll kind of go over the things. So at the end of this, we also have a little bit of Unbound, Tales of Warp section, where we're going to discuss the Servants of Unbound, pretty much the same kind of vibe, except we're going to do a lot of brainstorming. And I did find one Xenos race that kind of follows Unbound, the Yuvoth, which would be fun to talk about. So let's get into it.
All right, guys, let's start. Malice's cult of the doomed ones. So let's just do a quick overview of Malice himself, and then we'll get right into the cult. So he's feared as the outcast god, the lost one, or the renegade. Malice is chaos unchained, destruction for its own sake, even against itself. He is the storm without a center, the scream without a mouth. Malice thrives not by worship, but by feeding on the rise of other dark gods. His strength is theft. His will is madness. Where others build cults, he tears them down. His sacred number is 11, disorder made manifest, and his colors are black and white, never blending, always clashing. And I'll do a little quote here. I'll put on my best dark voice. And he that went before now came last, and that which was white and black, and all direction was thrown against itself, grown mightily indignant at the words of the gods. Malal did turn his heart against them and flee into the chambers of space. And no man looked to Malal then, save those that serve that which they hate, who smile upon their misfortune, and who bear no love, save for the damned. At such times as a warrior's heart turns to Malal, all gods of chaos grow fearful, and the laughter of the outcast god fills the tomb of space. Quote from the great book of despair.
Yeah, I love it. The god that fights itself, chaos against itself, darkness, shadow, despair. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that all the other chaos gods fear. Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing too. Like, the other gods say gain power from the mortal realm, where Malice gains power from the chaos god. So the more powerful the chaos gods get, the more powerful Malice gets. So it's like, fuck, you can't beat the guy. But also, he doesn't seem to want to get too involved.
Yeah,
he's got his own
he's not there
things.
trying to play the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. He's not playing the great game. Yeah.
Now, if you do fall to Malice, you might be joining the cult of the doomed ones. There is a name that slithers through the warp like a rusted blade drawn across bone, spoken in snarls, not reverence even by the mad. That name is Malice, the anarch, the god without allegiance. He is the tear in the tapestry of chaos, the hatred that turns inward, the scream that silences all. To follow Malice is to reject all order, even that of the ruinous powers. His cultists, known as the Forsworn, are driven not by glory, but by the urge to unmake, to burn chaos itself down to ash. They do not build altars, they defile them. They do not summon demons, they butcher them. Followers of Malice unleash their wrath upon any encounter, be they of the Imperium, Xenos, or followers of Chaos. Captives are routinely, ritually sacrificed. The other Chaos gods spit contempt and fire upon Malice, for he represents rebellion unbound, destruction without purpose. His followers are cursed to isolation, gnawed by madness, fueled by spite, yet for some, that is power enough to hate so deeply, even the warp itself recoils. Sort of like, I guess, like sayings, we shall deny Nurgle their flesh to fester and rot. We shall deny Khorne their blood and skulls. We shall deny Tzeentch their destinies and fates. We shall deny Slaanesh their pleasure and pain. Death to the dark gods. For the renegade god, let the galaxy burn. A dirge of Malal.
It's a fun dirge to sing. Just imagine the whole Astartes crew singing that song as they're about to go raid somebody.
That is
raid another Chaos War band.
That's awesome. I'm sure someone in the chat let us know if there's a metal song already to that dirge.
Yeah, or put it through some AI or something if there isn't.
100%.
There's a guy, Jonathan Young, who was doing some metal, like metal album, I think, of 40K songs he was working on.
Ooh.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like imagine being like on a chaos marine on your ship, and all of a sudden like that starts playing over your Vox.
Yes. And you look all around you, and it's just a wide range of aliens, cultists, Astartes, just like a weird collection of people, all checkered black and white. Some don't have armor, so it's just war paint or something, you know? Heck yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jax Carnage says, is there anything about this episode actually canon, since Mal isn't 100% GW property? You know, where the line starts and end, that's hard to say on this. There is definitely some parts that are my interpretation for sure. So far, like these quotes and stuff, and some of this stuff is definitely canon. I'll kind of let you know throughout the episode as we go forward, like which pieces are kind of, you consider that can kind of be standard canon, where this is more just what we think is happening, because it's definitely some of that eventually. But not yet. Next, we'll talk about the gifts of Malice. Malice rarely grants gifts or blessings, and when he does, they are cruel things, painful, unstable, and often cursed. His touch is a brand of rebellion, not favor. And though the few who receive his blessings quickly learn that power from Malal is always double-edged. A blade may sear through demon flesh with unnatural ease, but also gnaw the wielder's mind with every strike. Armor may deflect warp spawn fire, but slowly fuse the bearer's skin, becoming a prison of hate. These gifts are not for survival or glory. They exist to drive destruction and isolation, to sever bonds and unmake alliances. Each is a tool of Malice's greater war. A war not just against mortals, but against the very fabric of chaos itself. Yeah, fucking cool. Like, his blessings, he doesn't, like we said, he doesn't really get involved. He's not playing the great game. His servants definitely play the great game, though. Like, they like going after other chaos cultists and eliminating them. That's what they get off to. And then when it comes to their blessings and stuff, it's like that double-edged curse, because it's like they're not made for survival, these guys, like the other chaos gods, where Korn kind of wants his cultists to commit chaos forever. These guys just burn out quick for Malice, so they're not so worried about like armor that's impenetrable. It's like it's almost like a DPS type armor, like what do they call it in like WoW when you get types like that? It doesn't matter, but
yeah, Malice is really like, I love it because he's just the height of contradictions, and it's very meta, I find, among like the chaos gods. All the other chaos gods are all very, they all have their gimmick, so to speak. They kind of have it's a very, kind of cartoonish, but in the way that like 40k is. But like Malice is super meta, and I find just like it's chaos of chaos, or the chaos of chaos. That's kind of what he is. And with his gifts, it kind of seems that way too. Just chaos for chaos sake. But I also wonder too, though, just like, we'll probably get more into this, but just like the whole like perspective, or I guess characterization of Malice as anarchy. People who are like real political anarchists, because I have read a little bit about it, would probably disagree with that sentiment, because the way it's sort of being used is anarchy is chaos, and that's how like most people colloquially use the term. But the literal term means without rulers or without kings. So most anarchists would argue that like we don't believe in like no rules or no organization or no structure. We just there's no hierarchy. Like, you eliminate the hierarchy, and everyone is sort of on equal footing. So I do wonder if there's maybe a little bit of a presenting the anarchy of Malice in that way. However, you could also argue that Malice himself does believe that. Like, he believes in no rulers. Like, he's not even trying to become the ruler necessarily. He's just chaos for chaos sake.
Yeah, like I guess in one sense he's going after the chaos gods, which is like, no gods or whatever. Everyone should be equal. Do you
Yeah.
think there's a better word you should use as opposed to anarchy to kind of describe his vibe then?
I mean, it's hard because I would just say chaos, but that almost sounds redundant, right? Like, because
Yeah.
it's chaos. I don't. I get, like, I don't know what other word you would use, but yeah, like, I get what people are saying about anarchy, and I'm not gonna like quibble over it, but it's just I wanted to make like a
Take another
little,
shot, Jordan. It's gonna be okay. Don't
Right.
quibble over it.
I just wanted to make a little footnote about the word anarchy, which is often associated with Malal or Malice. So,
Yeah, he's almost neutral. Like,
yeah,
he
that's
doesn't-
true.
he doesn't pick a side. Like, it's like chaotic neutrality almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, even with like his servants, like he rarely gives them gifts. Like it's very rare, and when they do, it's that double-edged sword. So even that, like it's very neutral. He's not favoring anyone.
Yeah, totally. All right, shall we get into demonhood under Malice? It is unclear whether Malice has the power to elevate his followers to true demonhood in the same way as the other chaos gods. There are whispers, some say in hushed tones, and others in desperate defiance, that Malice might offer such a transformation, but it seems almost impossible to say for certain. His gifts are not those of glory or ascension, but of destruction, corruption, and annihilation. To be touched by Malice is to be reshaped, but not in the image of the other gods' chosen champions. Should one manage to survive the suffocating weight of Malice's influence long enough, perhaps they would emerge as something more, a demon, or perhaps something less. His path is not one of divine elevation, it is a journey of self destruction, fueled by internal hatred and rebellion. The very concept of demonhood under Malice is ambiguous. Those who have walked the path to his side are often not warriors of power or position, but chaotic agents of unmaking. Whether his transformation would result in a demon at all, or simply a ruin of what was once human, remains a mystery, clouded by the unpredictable and contradictory nature of the renegade god. Yeah, that's kind of almost even a little bit of what I was saying before. It is interesting, like, yeah, what if Malice doesn't actually allow people to ascend to demonhood? Because that would almost be like against his very nature of what he's trying to achieve, which is nothing at all.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's exactly it. I would imagine. Maybe if you wanted to get really wacky with it, we could say Malice's demon princes are black holes. But
Yeah.
that's just you got to get a little more drunk, I think, before I convince you on that one.
Okay, sure. No problem.
Yeah, because I didn't think he, made any demons, like splitting off his power into any demons. And like you said, it's rare when he gives any gifts to anybody, and that would be, uplifting somebody to a demon would be such a huge gift.
Yeah.
Because it would almost like necessitate him creating that hierarchical structure.
Yeah, you're
which
like
I think-
elevating that person, right? Like above other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And like
Yeah,
I feel like he'll let his worshippers make their own structures within like a warband or whatever, but he wouldn't ever inflict that upon his followers.
Yeah, like, and at the end of the day, they're all equals in the fact that they're all going to die. Where, yeah, they're not getting that elevation at the end of it. Yeah.
All right. So should you, again, following Malice, trying to earn his gifts, you might receive Malice's corruption. Malice corrupts the soul, not through temptation or promises of power, but through despair, betrayal, and the festering seed of hatred. His path begins in disillusionment when a warrior, cultist, or sorcerer sees through the lies of the other chaos gods, realizes the futility of their endless wars, and turns inward. Rage takes root not just at enemies, but at former allies, gods, and the warp itself. This fury isolates, consumes, and hollows out all sense of loyalty. Where Khorne inspires fury, Slanesh lust, Nurgle devotion, and Tzeentch ambition, Malice offers nothing but the purity of spite. As the soul turns from worship to rebellion, from alliance to sabotage, Malice whispers, not with promises, but with a pull, a gravitational hatred that feeds on the soul's decay. Over time, the individual becomes a vessel for undoing. They destroy not to build, not to win, but because it all must fall. Their essence twists into a storm of contradiction, empowered by chaos but bent on destroying it. In this way, Malice doesn't offer corruption as a transaction. He awakens the ruin that was already waiting within. I really like that purity of spite part. Just like,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
that's so good.
Fucking cool. Yeah, it just is so much more aggressive and like than hate. Purity of hate. That could be more Khorne, but that spite, it's like I feel mad just reading it. Like
You know,
proxy.
I again the contradictions here, but
Mm.
and at the danger of blaspheming the Lord, you know, Christ says that in order to save your life, you must lose it first, right? And there's almost that sense with Malice, like you have to basically give up any ambition, anything that you are, completely surrender to um, the depths of nothingness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all, and it's like it's not even like giving up everything in despair. But it's like pushing past that, and that's pushing past that towards that spite, like just that, you know, wanting to burn everything down.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's motivation behind it. It's not just suicidal. It's like a motivated, like, yeah, I got to take it all with me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's homicidal and genocidal.
Yeah. I also like that Malice doesn't offer corruption as a transaction. He awakens the ruin that was already waiting within. So like he doesn't again impose any motivation on you. He just allows you to tap into that power in yourself and that motivation in yourself, and just giving you maybe a little extra tool to do that with.
Yeah. Like a good therapist or something. You got this.
Right.
You could do this.
I see you've devolved into nothingness and despair. Let me help you out of it.
Yeah, fun. The thought is, do spawns exist? You know, if we kind of all agreed pretty easily, yeah, demon princes most likely don't exist. There could always be an exception, but most likely, nah. What do you guys think about spawns, which is the opposite?
I think spawn would be a more viable option, just from thinking about the spawn of other gods. Is it doesn't always seem like it's something that the god puts on their followers so much as the energy of that god that gets absorbed by those like chaos cultists turns them into it of its like own thing. Like it's like absorbing too much radiation, and then your body mutates.
Yeah, like is it possible that like someone could turn to a spawn, or a spawn could be conjured almost through happenstance, or just like it's like a bacteria multiplying and then just kind of appears, almost just because of the environment that you're existing in. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
maybe an out there theory, but
Yeah, and I could imagine it be like once again kind of burning real quick if it was like some virus or bacteria, or like I was kind of picturing the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon. There's like this like tentacle beast kind of thing that's always expanding and shooting out everywhere, and you cut it off
yeah.
and it's expanding again. I picture something like that for the spawn of this, and then eventually like it kind of just explodes everywhere.
Yeah.
It is uncertain whether Malice can create chaos spawn in the same way as other chaos gods. While his influence is undeniable, there is no clear recorded instances of Malice birthing such creatures. What is known, however, is that his followers, those who are consumed by hatred and rebellion, turning their fury inward, are often driven to the edge of madness. These individuals may experience a form of internal corruption so deep and volatile that their souls begin to fracture, perhaps giving rise to something resembling a chaos spawn. However, unlike the other gods who spawn creatures of excess or indulgence, Malice's potential spawn would probably not be born from failed devotion or aberrant mutation. Instead, they would be twisted reflections of self-loathing entities born in the collapse of identity under pure destructive spite. They would be unprecedented and violent, chaotic not just in form but in purpose, creatures not driven by hunger or servitude but by the urge to destroy everything, including themselves. Whether these beings are truly Malice's creation or simply the inevitable result of his corrupting influence is all uncertainty, but it is clear that they would exist only to unravel, to tear apart all that chaos is, was, and could be. And maybe like in a twisted way, like suicide, if you're a follower of Malice, would be like the spawndom, essentially, like where you it's too much and you just destroy yourself, like you just rip yourself from within, essentially, and undo it all. But also that could be the Demon Prince version too. So what do you...
Yeah, it's hard to say. All right, let's get into some notable forces of the cult of the Doomed Ones. So let's start off with the Chaos Space Marines. So for a Chaos Space Marine warband, or even an entire Traitor Legion, to fall under the sway of Malice is a descent beyond damnation, into a paradox of hatred so deep it consumes their fellow traitors. Unlike the other ruinous powers, Malice offers no gifts of glory, excess, or sorcery, or decay, only the cold purity of annihilation. A warband might turn to Malice after centuries of infighting, betrayal by their chaos overlords, or disillusionment with the endless petty rivalries of the warp. Perhaps they see the corruption of their original cause, or simply grow to hate all things, even themselves. Once fallen, they sever all allegiance, turning their bolters not just on the Imperium, but on their former allies, demons, and even the gods themselves. They are stripped of iconography, clad in stark black and white, or daubed in crude, inverted sigils of mockery. Their rituals are ones of negation, their chants oaths of erasure. These warriors become nihilistic berserkers, fighting not for dominance, but for oblivion. Where they go, alliances crumble and worlds burned, not in conquest, but as an act of cosmic spite. They are traitors to the traitors, the ultimate heretics, marching in lockstep with Malice's creed. Destroy everything, even the gods. Interesting. I wonder, the Cult of the Doom Ones, I've never actually looked. Has anyone made like a chapter of them? Have you guys looked at this?
Yeah, so this is where canon becomes a little weird, I guess. There isn't actually a Cult of the Doomed Ones. That's kind of just what I labeled this episode.
Oh, right,
Now,
right.
there are the Doomed Ones, though, that do refer to the Sons of Malice, and we'll learn about them right now pretty much. But any other follower, what would they call themselves? I kind of just figured, they'd all call themselves the Doomed Ones or something similar, the Abandoned, or whatever.
Yeah, I like the talk about like if you've kind of like gotten so much in despair, like as a traitor marine, that you turn to Malice. So it's like you feel like the Imperium has failed you, so you turn to chaos, and now your chaos gods have failed you. So where do you turn now?
Yeah.
Like, you just have nowhere else to go but to Malice, and to again burn everything down, turn against the warp itself.
I forget who asked in the chat earlier, but somebody asked which Primarch would fall to Malice. And I think Perturabo and his Legion, where, like you said, it's like, fuck, the Imperium keeps letting me down. And then the Horus Heresy comes and he has to do all the heavy lifting and everyone else is off murder fucking, you know? And he's like, okay, I was never even a fan of chaos in the first place, and now I just hate it all.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that
'cause,
would be my guy.
Yeah, because he got disillusioned, even like I said, the Emperor let him down, and then Horus just stuck him doing the same shit jobs that he got disillusioned from the Emperor doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could easily see him, if any of them were going to do it, be the one to turn to Malice.
Yeah. That's a Sons of Malice that Jordan pulled up on the screen there. The checkered black and white would
the
just
black
be.
and white. And the horse.
It looks really good. I like that. It's slick.
Yeah.
I was just curious what a Space Marine would look like, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we are jumping into the Sons of Malice right now, so let's talk about those beautiful checkered boys.
Yeah, them sons. The Sons of Malice are a renegade, hate-fueled warband who embrace the anarchic will of the forbidden god Malice, a force of unreason and spite, exiled even among chaos. Before the 13th Black Crusade, they vanished into the howling dark, only to return in carnage near the Eye of Terror. Despised by the Imperium and loathed by the other ruinous powers, they make war without warning or allegiance, sowing madness and fire. They march not for conquest, but for collapse, seeking Skelos, their blighted homeworld, and dreaming of a galaxy ripped apart by Malice's raw, frothing fury. So did these guys come back into canon recently with the 13th Black Crusade?
I don't think so. Like, because the 13th Black Crusade has been around for, even since I was in the hobby, it was a thing. Now it's been rewritten a whole bunch of times as the thing. So, it goes into that line like GW never explicitly says this is no longer canon, lists it. Sometimes they do that rewrite where it's pretty clear, like Primaris Marines is like a different thing. I guess that's an addition, not a rewrite. But
yeah, well, I guess like one of the ones that's been gotten a lot of hate recently was them retconning like what Wraithbone is as a material.
Oof.
Which is horseshit.
Yeah, see, that's a good example of a retcon that's horseshit. Oh my goodness, what did they do? Next weekend I'm interviewing Jervis Johnson. He's like the biggest Eldar guy at GW. Came up with a lot of the concepts, and I wrote that question down. How do you feel about them butchering your fucking love child there? How?
I look forward to that answer.
I'm super.
Make sure you
that interview. Yeah.
Make sure you ask it in that way, like the most like.
I'll get the eye drops out and everything. How did you let this happen? How?
Why, Jervis?
Yeah, man.
I do like that they do have a homeworld that talks about them having one. And I'm imagining like what that world would even look like is. I don't think I could comprehend it.
Yeah, we'll learn what it looks like a little bit, and yeah, it's not a good place. It doesn't last very long, but let's learn about the origins of the chapter first. The true name of the Sons of Malice has long been obliterated, not by time but by decree, torn from the records, cursed and forgotten. Once loyal defenders of the Cadian Gate, they are among Astartes' Pharisees, guardians of the Void's edge. Those Astartes Pharisees or whatever, that's pretty cool. It was like 25 chapters that was founded just to like guard the Eye of Terror. It was just 25,000 Astartes for you. Enjoy. For centuries, they bled and burned in thankless wars, breaking demonic and heretics with pitiless resolve. They were fury incarnate until fury turned inward. From the savage world as secularists, they drew warriors marked by blood and ritual, tribes whose flesh feats echoed ancient, darker gods. Now they serve Malice, not for power, but for spite, and vengeance without end. Yeah, you're kind of just like this chapter's put on this job of holding the Eye of Terror. Here you go. That's a good way to disillusion somebody real quick. Here's this never-ending job that you're all going to die doing. Enjoy.
Right. Yeah, that's a real test of your psycho indoctrination is go stand by the shittiest place in the galaxy.
You just go stand over there. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's the prime way to get disillusioned. You know, you get these like Astartes that are doing like shitty jobs. They have feelings too, apparently.
Apparently. All right. The fall to darkness. And this is a quote from Chapter Master of the Sons of Malice. Quote, "We have done nothing wrong. We shall not do penance to any." End quote. The spiral into damnation did not begin with a war, but with a celebration. After the annihilation of the Silix 225 resistance, 3 underseas high cities reduced to pressurized tombs, the war was over, and the madness was given leave to breathe. The first captain, Cathal, axe bearer, and bloodsinger, led the revels. 11 years of ritual slaughter, borrowed from the native rites of Skelus, perhaps. Each year, more debased than the last, bodies burned on inverted pyres, dismembered foes danced like puppets on hooked wires. Laughter, shrill, ugly, never ceased. Inquisitor Solomon Pietus watched from the shadows, his lips trembling, prayers stuttering. His soul screamed warning. Something had taken root, not devotion, not heresy, but malice, a hatred without doctrine, a godless fury with righteous terror. Pietus summoned his purge, sororitas, flamers, astra militarum tanks, sanctioned death writ in golden script. They descended like fire on oil, righteous and sure. It was not enough. Cathal's brethren were not caught off guard. They had seen the omens in blood and smoke. They welcomed the slaughter like kin. Battle screams became howling. Bolters spat indiscriminately, and chain blades gnawed indiscriminately. The Inquisitor's force was swallowed in a tide of red. The sisters held their line, but the line broke beneath thunderous fists and screaming mouths by torchlight and bone fire. Cathal found Pietus. There was no sermon, only the rending. The Inquisitor died not as a martyr, but as an offering, not to chaos, but to malice. The Imperium's reprisal was hasty. A penitent crusade was offered, a mask of mercy worn by the High Lords of Terra. The chapter master laughed, not with joy, but scorn. No guilt, no regret. He let the envoy live, but made him watch the blood rites before departure. What remained of the Imperium's patience snapped. An extermination fleet emerged near Skelus and fired before translation was complete. Communications were jammed, appeals unanswered. The sons of Malice, aboard their dread ship Labyrinth, fled into the eye of terror, like insects into the dark. Behind them, their world burned. Skelus was cleansed by Cadian fire. The tribal blood cults, old as dust, were extinguished in days. Not a word from the chapter. No vengeance, no apology. Only silence and the echoes of laughter that did not fade.
Nice. Well, if that's how you treat your family, I'd hate how you treat your enemies. Fuck. Jeez. Yeah, they kind of, yeah, they just snapped, man. You're just staring into the eye of terror all day, just hearing the laughing of malice, and then you go do something crazy.
Yeah, and it seems like it sounded like their world from like the very end of it. What was the line about the like cultists old as
Yeah, the
dust?
blood cults.
The blood cults old, yeah. So it's almost like their home world was like predisposed to this kind of thing in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it like lots of feral worlds, man. Like they make the best Astartes kind of recruitment, so you're gonna find a lot of people ripping open each other's bodies and claiming hearts and shit.
Yeah, yeah. It this is the way they snapped, just like screams and fists and just absolute anarchy, just chaos, and
Yeah.
yeah. So, for those in service to Malice, these atrocities saw the sons of Malice cast out by the Senatorum Imperialis, declared excommunicate traitors, not for their heresy, but for their refusal to serve. Since then, they have vanished into the Eye of Terror, where they roam like blades caught in a storm, killing without pattern, without loyalty, and without mercy. They strike at the Imperium, they strike at the archenemy, they strike at everyone. It is not purpose that drives them, it is malice. Over the next 1,000 standard years, Anarch Cathal, no longer a captain, now a crowned lunatic god thing, initiated 11 rituals aboard the vast, drifting horror that had become the Labyrinth. Once a battle barge, now a rotting space hulk stitched with demonic steel and unmaking energies, these rites, known only as the challenges of the Labyrinth, occurred once every century. They were not trials of strength, they were acts of mutilation disguised as tradition. Volunteers, or at least those who laughed too loudly or spoke the wrong prayers, were sent into the heart of the labyrinth. They walked into shifting corridors and reality maws, hunted by things that remembered before. None returned, not whole. Whispers claimed the winners emerged as the doomed ones, high champions of malice, flesh cursed, will shattered, blessed with gifts no sane man would want. They wandered the galaxy like broken knives, ending lives with impossible efficiency, but that was a lie, or at least a half-truth. When Brother Invictus completed the 11th challenge at the end of M41, the veil lifted. Only the first to reach the exit lived. The rest, trapped in a twisted echo of the ship, were lost to madness, fed to the labyrinth's hunger, or transformed into things unfit to be named. And those victors? They had not gone to war. They had been hidden in stasis tombs, stored like ammunition. 11 of them. 11 sacrifices. Cathal lit the altar and spoke the name of the god that had no face. Malice came screaming into real space, born not of faith, but spite. The crusade to reclaim Skelos began, a campaign of retribution sharpened into insanity. Its outcome, unknown, forgotten, or perhaps denied. Before the 13th Black Crusade, the despoiler himself sought their strength. Against all expectation, the sons agreed, perhaps to break him from within, perhaps to mock him, perhaps to betray him at the final moment. They do not serve chaos. They serve nothing. At Faith's anchorage, they found their prey, the Cadian 331st. Agitator Kanath led them. Gruber died screaming, no glory, no gain, only the echo of cold vengeance in a dead god's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of this sounds almost like Eldritch, Cthulhian, Lovecraftian old ones, like the idea of just like these unnamed horrors in the ship, like self-mutilation and blood rites and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah. I almost wonder if this was like the first time Malice was spawned almost. Um like he spawned after all the other four chaos gods. Like I'm pretty sure he's the newest of them. He can't be the oldest, like because his power comes from all the gods, so he has to be the newest. Um and this whole ritual, and even just like what it took, it's like, these guys were supposed to be the good guys, and then once again they betrayed their own kind, burned down their homeworld, and then they did all these crazy rituals on their spaceship, and then boom, Malice was finally formed. Like, they have like a birthing period for sure. So I'm not saying that this one event was the whole birthing period. It could have been over 10,000 years that this was happening. This like malice, this spite, this kind of internal decay. But this kind of almost seems like that birthing moment.
the way I had read it is like this was the first time, or maybe the first time he was summoned, because it says he was summoned into real space. So I don't know
Yeah.
if this was, yeah, like it. I like that it was also out of spite. Like it wasn't out of like faith and malice. It's like his followers are spiteful to him as well. Like he ignites that spiteful ferocity in them, and they're just as spiteful right back to the person who gives them this strength.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna go on this crusade of vengeance to reclaim our homeworld, and we're gonna drag you kicking and screaming out of the warp into real space to help us do it, you motherfucker.
Yeah. And then he basically nominates like his 11 champions or whatever. They get
Mhm.
some cool kind of boons, and those seem to be the only guys who ever really get boons. But we'll
Yeah,
learn
if he's
more
gonna
about
give
them.
boons to somebody, it might as well be like with his sacred number.
Yeah. And like I kind of think, okay, if this was kind of like his kind of birthing point, boom, he also creates his like 11 kind of leaders or just people or whatever. And then he never does anything again, really. They just can never organize to do anything again.
Yeah, this is the one time was able to organize something. It was like, okay, now you just handle the rest.
Yeah. Notable campaigns of the Sons of Malice. Killix 225, Atrocity, Date, Lost to Sanity, M40. The Sons of Malice halted a heretic cult from flooding 3 underwater hives with seafloor pressure, but their celebrations, a howling orgy of murder, mutilation, and cannibalistic rites, shattered all bonds with the Imperium. Oh, they're like, oh, we're here to be saved. No, okay. Ordo Hereticus Inquisitor Solomon Pietas led a large force of 5 Astra Militarum regiments and a full strike unit of the Order of Our Martyred Lady. All were butchered. Pietas himself was flayed alive and offered to Malice by First Captain Cathal in the Temple of Screaming Steel. The chapter was declared traitor and haunted. They laughed. You think your titles mean anything to us? They say. Ooh.
Right. I thought it was like it was a lot of forces that they just destroyed too. It was a 5 chapters of Space Marines, or what was it again?
5 regiments.
5 regiments of Space Marines. The 5 Astra Militarum regiments. Oh, that's right. And a full strike unit of Sororitas. Like that's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are like a weapon of mass destruction. They're
Yeah. Just imagine like a full chapter though going rogue.
yeah.
I guess that's a lot of firepower, because not just the Marines, but like all of their, assuming they have like all their tanks and like mechanized warfare and support systems and everything.
Yeah, like their spacecraft as well.
Yeah, because we know that they have their battle bards. That's now their Space Hulk.
Like cool.
Yeah. So after that is the Skelos Apparition and 998 M41. The corpse world of Skelos, glassed by the Imperium centuries prior, trembled once more as Auspex arrays picked up a fire-wreathed gunship, ancient, defaced, blaring madness sigils, and daubed in both the Sons of Malice's war markings and trophies taken from other Chaos Space Marine warbands. It rained fire on a monitoring station, then vanished into a blood-red warp rift. The Ordo Hereticus investigates, few return sane. I like that. It basically, like, also when it comes in, just be like, hey, don't forget we're here, blows up a station, a monitoring station, and then it's just like, we out.
Oh yeah, I'm taking some trophies too. Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the 13th Black Crusade. This was around 999 M41. In the maelstrom of Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade, the Sons of Malice unleashed their rage, not out of loyalty, but in defiance of order itself. They hunted Imperials and traitors alike, killing in Malice's name, for no cause but to unmake. Each battlefield became a screaming vortex of blades, flesh, and flame. Their vengeance against the loss of Skelos was indiscriminate and insatiable. Yeah, like what a sort of uh I don't know, what's the word? I'm lost the word. Like card to play in the middle of a battlefield where you think there's just two players, and then all of a sudden like this third player comes in and just completely ruins everything. All your plans have to just go out the window because these guys aren't really on a side at all.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like where the traitor legions kind of gained that fear of the Sons of Malice and like Malice's followers, like because it said Horus had like sought out their help and they agreed, and I wonder how much they, if it wasn't this, but like how much did they trust them then to actually be their allies during this part of the Black Crusade?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it would depend on like how well you understand Malice, right? Like how
That's
well you
true.
understand that force. And if you think, I could imagine even like during the Horus heresies, you know, like Horus really just wasn't that long introduced to chaos. Like, yeah, he had sort of gone into the waters of chaos, and he hadn't been like a lifelong disciple of it. It was more of like a recent thing. So would he really even fully understand the fire that he's playing with, much less with the gods that he serves, but much less a force like Malice, like I feel
But
like that would just be so out of his depth or anyone's depth, right? Like,
yeah, I guess if all you've known is the four ruinous powers and how they operate, and that's what your, I guess, chaos worldview is based off of,
yeah,
and then something like Malice is just completely out of the realm of your understanding.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I feel like too, the more we read this, the more it's like, yeah, I think Malice kind of came into real space burst existence around the 40th. Well, I'm just looking at these dates of these campaigns, and we have like M40, M41, 998. They're all later up there. Is when these guys kind of are active and start building a name and start like doing malicey things.
Yeah. So next we have Slaughter at Faith's Anchorage in 999 M41. Cadian remnants fleeing Cadia's fall blundered into the Sons of Malice in the cursed Agrippina system. Led by the deranged Adjutor Kanath, the warband shattered the weakened fleet and drove the survivors to the icy moon of Faith's Anchorage. General Gruber made a final stand amid Promethean mines and frozen catacombs. The suns encircled them like jackals, unleashing waves of maddened cultists, mech slaves, and howling warbands. Void shields collapsed under orbital bombardment, and the heretic Astartes tore through the last Cadians in a week-long massacre that turned snow to black slush and bone. Word of the carnage drew rival chaos warbands, Crimson Slaughter, Sons of Slaughter, Black Legion, and more, each seeking favor with Malice or merely eager for blood. The skies above Faith's Anchorage swarmed with warships just as Admiral d'Armitage's battered fleet emerged from the warp by chance. His forces caught the Chaos fleet by surprise, buying enough time for a second Cadian counter-landing under General Isaiah Benedict. A brutal space battle erupted. The Grand Alliance, d'Armitage's flagship, was nearly destroyed before the timely arrival of the Stykstad, a Space Wolves strike cruiser that tore into the Chaos lines like a rabid beast. The heretics fractured, Chaos ships burned, scattered, or were boarded, and silenced. Imperial forces descended like a hammer, purging the Sons of Malice, stranded below in 2 blood-drenched weeks. The slaughter ended with the sons butchered or incinerated, but none rejoiced. The screams had etched themselves into the very ice of the moon. The Agrippina campaign had only begun, but all knew Malice had been fed.
Yeah, interesting. Kind of just more little pieces here. Like the one line that stood out to me when I was reading around was about the Crimson Slaughter, the Sons of Slaughter, the Black Legion, all coming and trying to seek favor with Malice. Or maybe they were just there for chaos, they also write. So we don't know, but yeah, maybe Malice kind of made his appearance, and all these war bands start trying to seek his favor, and he's already like, I don't want any of you guys. That's not what we're doing here. I got these guys that I already have determined, and beyond that, fuck the rest of you.
Yeah, that could be like a very a very disorientating experience to have, because again, going back to what mortals view chaos as, it's like, what you do X, and then Y happens with whatever god you're trying to worship. But with Malice, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. You give enough skulls, you might get a cool chain weapon, but with Malice, yeah, there's not that equation. I like it. So yeah, they kind of just have some crazy little battles there against, typically it seems like, heretics, and loyalists are often there as well, but it's almost like they enjoy attacking directly when heretics are attacking. So they disrupt the heretics' plan, and the Imperium's kind of fucked too, because they go and kill all the Imperial side as well. So
yeah, just nobody's safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the chapter Homeworld we briefly mentioned, but let's get back into it. We might learn a little bit more about the blood cults that were forming there. Originally, the sons of Malice drew their neophytes from the blood-sick bone pits of Seculus. Blood-sick bone pits of Seculus, feral cannibals daubed in ash and ink, raised on pain, worship, and war. These tribes didn't offer recruits, they offered offerings. Each child chosen was flensed, reworked, and baptized in the ritual of slaughter beneath the screaming sky. When the Inquisition came, they did not come to reason. The 331st Canadian Shock Troopers landed in force, burning the jungle hives, flooding the labyrinth clutches with promethium, and executing 1,000,000 throats under the orders sealed in gold and blood. But even as Seculus died, its sun scattered, the warp swallowed them whole and spat them back rabid. What remained of Seculus was not a world, but a wound. It was declared Purita, cursed and forgotten. But still echoes of drums can be heard in the ash winds, and the bone shifts relentlessly beneath the blackened soil. The Inquisition claims it as a victory. The sons of Malice call it sacred ground.
So when you're reading that, a word that popped up I did not know was when it said that the offerings were what was that again? They offer each child to children was flensed, reworked, and baptized in ritual slaughter. I didn't know what flensed means. So flensed is to slice the skin or fat from something. So
like a butcher.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a butchering term. So yeah, like they sent these kids to them as offering, having like sliced their skin off at least partly.
Oh
yeah, oof,
it's not good.
Yeah,
and this is the world they come from.
Yeah, you don't want to grow up on a feral cannibalistic, blood-sick bone pit of Seculus. It's not a good place. It's not a great place to raise a family. It's not a great place to start a business.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, the crime's a little too high for me to live there. All right, let's get into the chapter organizations. So, unlike the maddened hordes of other traitor legions, the Sons of Malice maintain just enough structure to sharpen the blade. War bands form and dissolve like storms, following rituals known only to the deranged. Librarians scream omens into the void. Tech Marines forge weapons that bleed or whisper. Their organization isn't a doctrine, it's a convulsion. What appears ordered is merely the still moment before frenzy. Hierarchy flickers, burns, then reforms. Brothers kill brothers in sacred duels to earn the right to command. One such leader bore the title Agitor, but such names are ephemeral. Today's Agitor might be tomorrow's sacrifice, his skull hollowed and filled with embers to mark a victory.
Yeah.
this is what I was saying, like chaos for chaos sake almost. As soon as the fighting starts, it's just there's no order to it whatsoever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much might makes right, because if you're not strong enough to keep that position, just because everything is so chaotic, not even necessarily that everyone's trying to kill you to take your position, everything's just so chaotic. Who knows what's going to happen next? And you have to be strong enough to hold that position.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that it kind of just changes. Different person, no rhyme, no reason, potentially. Yeah, it could be the strongest a lot of the time, just trying to hold everyone in line, just wait till the battle before you start chopping, please. Like, it's that one guy.
I
What a
mean,
great leader.
it would be so unpredictable to fight an enemy like that. Like, how do you even plan for such a thing? And also, you know, typically when you think of war, you think like the most organized wins. But I think in this case, you could make the argument that just because chaos and the warp is sort of on their side, that calculation doesn't always work. You know, this could turn. You'd think, well, if I'm just more organized than the enemy and more structured than the enemy and logistically better than the enemy, I can win this, and that might work for conventional warfare. But I feel like when you factor in the warp and chaos, like those those calculations just no longer apply.
Yeah,
You've been
I was thinking the same thing. There's like a lot of warfare is based on like outmaneuvering and outplanning your enemy, and I don't think you can plan for these guys at all.
no. Right before the battle, they always run in unexpected, flip your like war board
Yeah.
and leave. You're just like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah,
Battle
like, I wonder
happens.
if they're even able to like use like the warp for their travel and like appear more randomly even than like normal Chaos Space Marines could.
Yeah, like almost like they have the labyrinth that can like teleport around the galaxy essentially, but like more personal.
I don't know, just like I'm just trying to think of a way to say it, but yeah, just like that. I guess almost transcending that chaos into luck, if that makes sense.
So it's almost like they open up like just portals randomly, and wherever they open up, that's kind of like where they're gonna go. Like,
Yeah, just like
it could be a
so
peaceful
chaotic.
world, it could be an imperial world. You never know.
Yeah, but like it opens them up into like the best position that to cause the most chaos among their enemy.
Yeah.
So with that, their chapter combat doctrine, the sons of Malice descend without warnings, screaming with laughter or chanting in tongues no vox can record. Some fights are a frenzy of howls, other eerily calm. No pattern, no doctrine, just carnage. Survivors speak not of tactics, but of madness. So yeah, like what we were just talking about. And imagine these guys also, even if you fought them before and they were like screaming and chanting and swinging axes and chain swords, and in this battle you're like, okay, I'm mentally ready for them, and they're just quiet.
Yeah. And like, wait, I swear last time I see them, they were black on the left and white on the right. Now they're black on the right and white on the left. Ah.
Oh, no.
Or
The next
black
time
on the
it's
top and white on the bottom.
Oh
Is that what
no,
I was
my
gonna say
god.
that,
Okay.
Yeah, like, and they just come out of nowhere and mess you up and then leave just as quick as they came.
Yeah.
Their beliefs in the chapter, the sons of Malice were once numbered among the emperor's servants, but their origin was steeped in blood. From secularists, they took warriors raised on slaughter and ritual cannibalism. Every 11 years, they gorged on the living, tearing apart captives and rites that burned man and beast, flesh and fury. They were executioners of heresy, wielding zeal like a cleaver, and their hatred for chaos was once as pure as it was merciless. But when the Inquisition turned on them, they did not shatter, they transformed. They cast off the shackles of loyalty, naming the Emperor Corpse Lord, and pledging themselves to Malice, the renegade god, a god without a throne, the howl in the void. Once the drifting nightmare of the labyrinth, they butchered Xenos and man alike in living feasts, wailing praise to the warp. For among the blood-soaked survivors, 11 doomed ones were chosen for the challenge, a sacrificial rite to draw Malice's gaze and claw his essence into reality. Yet Cathal and his kin defied even the dark gods. Some still, perhaps, and his hosts marched beneath the banner. Didn't sound right, that sentence. Some, perhaps Cathan and his hosts, marched beneath the banner of the 13th Black Crusade, not out of fealty, but for slaughter's sake, worshipping only the storm of chaos undivided, and the echoing of the laughter of the god who exists to defy all others. Fate is kind to those who hate. They destroy the tribes who were our mother and father. We destroy them and eat their souls. Oh, that was a quote. Let me maybe put on my quote voice. Fate is kind to those who hate. They destroyed the tribes who were our mother and father. We shall destroy them and eat their souls. And that is Agitator Karnath before the Battle of Faith's Anchorage. Yeah, their beliefs are kind of pretty cool. Their beliefs didn't change necessarily, they evolved. So they were kind of formed to hate chaos in the first place. They were formed with those 25 chapters to just specifically watch chaos. So they already hated that guy. And then they find a better god.
Right. That makes me, like I said earlier, just, if you're going to become disillusioned with the Imperium somewhere, you already hate chaos, and now you're just stuck there looking at, like the butthole in space that some people refer to as the Eye of Terror as.
Yeah.
Okay, so the gene seed. Let's get into this. The origins of the gene seed of the Sons of Malice does not appear in any official imperial records or Adeptus Mechanicus Geno archive. Yeah, that's that's all there is on the gene seed.
Makes sense, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess, is it even canon? So the question is, if it is or if it isn't, then why would there be a gene seed, I guess?
Yeah, I wonder, I'm going to Google what they were in and see what other chapters were in there, because maybe it was a bunch of Ultramarine foundlings and we could maybe assume that it was Ultramarines as well, but, it's all speculation at that point.
Yeah, what the distribution is among those. Was it 25 chapters, I think, that were around there?
Yeah.
No. Well, while we're doing that, we'll look into some notable Sons of Malice, some of the noteworthy ones. So first one here is Chapter Master Cathal. Once Cathal was the unyielding first captain of the Sons of Malice's elite first company, a blade sharpened in the fires of war. But the Kilix 225 campaign marked his true ascension. The victory rites he led thrust the chapter into the eye of damnation. Inquisitor Solomon Pietus, a fool to challenge the Sons, was torn asunder by Cathal's wrath. With the Inquisitor's flesh consumed in ritual sacrifice, the Sons shed their loyalty to the Emperor and embraced Malice in its most ferocious form. Cathal's blood-stained reign began as a chapter master, a harbinger of annihilation.
Cool.
I
think we got 11 those kind of 11 guys that were transformed. So
okay. So the next one is Agitor Kanath. Kanath, the Chaos Lord of Madness, led the assault on the survivors of the Cadian shock troops at the Battle of Faith's Anchorage. His ferocity was unmatched, his tactics as unpredictable as the warp itself. The fate of Kanath remains a twisted mystery, swept into the purging storm that obliterated the Chaos forces in the Agrippina system. Did he survive? Did he ascend? Only the madness of the warp knows. I feel like this is almost becoming a trope in 40K, where some great warrior disappears, and we don't know what happens to him.
Hey, is he gonna come back for like some type of end times, possibly?
Yeah, second coming of Knaf. Although I'm sure, like not very many people even know who this guy is. So, to be fair, um, Canaan. Canaan sought glory in the challenge of the labyrinth, his ambition leading him to Invictus's group of doomed ones. His end came swift, murdered by a mutant after barely tasting his promise of power. A footnote in the chaos of the labyrinth. His name was devoured by the void. That feels very Malal. That like as soon as you achieve like your height of glory, then you are cut down.
Yeah, and not remembered.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like Malal is very tall poppy syndrome. It's like no one is allowed to rise too much,
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it even like because the warp exists sort of outside of time, if like you get to that point, like it erases your name, but it erases your name like from like all of history.
Yeah.
Just as far as anyone else is concerned, you just never existed, and now you're just this, unknowable being that serves Malal.
They do
Yeah.
like the MIB,
There you go,
flash thing to the whole universe, and everyone forgets you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, just purged from the administrative databases.
Yeah.
With the powers of the warp.
Man, that's actually, that'd be kind of a cool concept if someone played around with a story like that. Now that you mention it. All right, short story time, boys.
Right.
Let's do it.
Listener lore, somebody do it.
Yeah. All right, the next one, Cato. Cato's named burned bright as he faced an orc ambush alone at the Battle of Udervergen. But the labyrinth offered no mercy. He joined Invictus, only to be struck down by a hidden laser cable. His severed head tumbling into oblivion. Death came from nowhere, as it always does in this twisted place.
It's like that unceremoniousness of it. Like, he just tripped over a laser cable, dead, like quick, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I could just see like like a warrior, like an ultimate son of Malal, like achieving the highest heights, killing like a champion of a chapter, and then an Imperial guard shoots him in the back and kills him.
Yeah.
It's like over. Yeah. Just so degrading. Okay.
And the way it says that the labyrinth offered no mercy, almost like the ship itself is also your enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, like I guess typically the ways this would work too is like your crowning moment would be the moment of your undoing. Like the best moment of your life ultimately would then lead to your own undoing if you're following Malice, because that's the end goal.
Yeah. All right, Valius, who's famed for tearing Lord Bacchus's head from his shoulders, met his demise in a brutal irony. Oh, of course he did. Once victorious, he now lay crushed beneath an automated door.
So unceremonious.
Oh, that sucks so bad.
Betrayed by the very machinery meant to be his ally. In the labyrinth, nothing is certain, and no victory is ever truly final. That's even worse than being killed by an Imperial guard. That's just like...
Right. It's like you're going to the grocery store and you just get crushed to death, like walking into Aldi or something.
Yeah. Mortagan, a veteran of the Exterminatus on Corridon 4, joined the doomed ones with a death wish that could never be sated. He died crawling through an excoriated pipe, his body consumed by corrosive waste. The labyrinth's cruel promise, even the strongest will break. Lupercall in the chat says, The Doors machine spirit got the last word in, I suppose, in reference to Malice. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. This is
Very
like Final Destination, where it's like you can't avoid
Oh.
these fates are coming for you.
yeah.
Oh, you're
It-
right.
It's like a place of just like a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah. Yeah. Augustine is the next dude. Augustine joined Invictus group, yet his fate is lost in the minds of chaos. Of chaos. The labyrinth swallowed its children, their lives snuffed out with no witness, no record, only the memory of ambition. Moloch. Moloch was cast into the void, an unwilling sacrifice pushed by Invictus in the heartless cold of space. A victim of the labyrinth's fickle nature, his scream was lost in the vacuum, forgotten by all but the stars. Crassus. That space room one's kind of fun to be pushed out into the cold of space because, like, presumably he's alive out there for a little bit till he kind of dies.
That's true.
Like, if he was wearing his power armor and you just push him into space, like, he's fucked.
Well,
Yeah.
since there's
But,
space
like-
marines have that like gland or whatever that can put them into like suspended animation too. So yeah, you can just be floating out there waiting for someone to find him.
Yeah.
Do any power armors ever have like any kind of thruster of some kind that you could maybe save yourself in space? I'm not sure. I've never seen it.
I thought the original backpacks, you could kind of use those for tilts, for thrusts.
Yeah.
But I think that was more like a very specific power armor mark almost.
Okay.
Like a very specific backpack design. So, but maybe that would be a fun thing to talk about an episode on or something. But
yeah, I've never witnessed any depiction of like a flying or thrusting space marine or read about it. So
yeah, like
it
it
seems
would
like
be more like directional, almost like it's not like jump packs where they're like
no, yeah. Yeah, it's not like a jetpack. It's just like it helps you jump higher or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the normal models like have it looks like they have some kind of like thruster or ventilation thing on them. I had always taken that as sort of like when you jump from high places, it can help to like slow your landing and stabilize you. But yeah, not really thrust so much. But maybe
when you're in space, like you don't need much. You just need a little bit.
Apparently, quick Google search. Apparently, yeah, it does help them with movement in space. Those little vents on the back. It's not the most, but it does.
Okay.
The backpack includes stabilization thrusters to allow for movement in zero gravity or low gravity environments. Yeah.
So Moloch could have hypothetically saved himself in this little rabbit trail we've gone on.
Yeah.
Imagine him floating through space and a ship picks him up, and then now he's on another ship. Like, how chaotic would that be?
Oh, that would be fun for everyone involved, I think.
Just some random freighter picks him up and he slaughters him like a horror movie.
Yeah. Up next is Crassus. His death was raw, visceral, and horrifying. Mauled by a mutant, he felled, his flesh torn apart in brutal, senseless end. The labyrinth devours its aspirants, and for Crassus, there was no escape. Septimon. Septimon was the martyr, the one who gave his life to keep a door open for his comrades. He held the barrier while others fled, his life extinguished by a mutant's claws. His sacrifice, like so many, meant nothing in the end, just another name consumed by the labyrinth's insatiable hunger. Agon. His death was swift. His body crumpled under the claws of mutants before he could cross the exit portal. Another casualty of the labyrinth's madness. His body left to rot in place where time and death are blurred. Generius. Generius is long overshadowed by Invictus. Met his end in a twisted betrayal. Invictus, his supposed friend, slaughtered him in cold blood as the challenge neared its end. The labyrinth consumed not only the body, but the trust between them, leaving only chaos and a trail of broken bonds. Yeah, that's not a place you make friends in, I don't think. Yeah. And the final guy is Invictus. Was the last to survive in the labyrinth's horrors. The 11th and the final doomed one. His victory was hollow. His blood spilled in the final brutal sacrifice by Cathal, who sought to summon Malice from the warp. He was the key to the destruction of reality itself, a pawn in the game far older than more devastating than any could comprehend. Yeah. So fun time in the labyrinth there. Definitely that could be its own standalone teen drama movie with a heartthrob romantic love line.
Yeah.
Honestly, like that would be a really like I'd say it's an interesting movie, or like if Warhammer Plus, like Warhammer TV did that as like a series of just like following this group of 11 going through the labyrinth, and just one by one they get picked off by like mutants or random happenstance or get pushed out of an airlock or whatever. Like
Or you could just be like Games Workshop and make 11 books out of it, and
Oh, that
11
would be okay.
novels.
no.
Each one is how each guy dies until you get to the final one, and he
Oh,
passes
man.
through the labyrinth.
And what do you do after that with your life?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah, fuck.
All right, chapter flee. The labyrinth was no mere space hulk. It was a drifting grave palace of jagged metal and gnashing teeth. Once a proud battle barge, now a cursed altar. It spirals through the void like a wounded predator, groaning with the weight of unending rites. Here, the sons of Malice gather in madness, and the challenge of the labyrinth begins, where blood is the key and pain the door. 11 doomed ones are chosen, not to win, but to be torn apart in the summoning of the pariah god. Bronze Minos was a strike cruiser in name only, its hull seethed with cursed iconography and broken logic. Under Adjutor Kenath's command, it split through the warp like a fang bleeding war into the battle of faith's anchorage, where silence reigned and reality buckled.
Cool. The labyrinth is cool ship, I'm sure. Just this twisted fucking place. Lupercal says the labyrinth omnibus, 2 books per person, plus 23 short stories attached. Yeah,
Let's
Drag
do
I'm
it.
in.
I'll write it for you, Games Workshop. Hit me up.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I got the kind of concept for the cult of the doomed ones. You know, we got these 11 that it seems like they know they're getting sacrificed in it, but they're still willing to do it, and they all ultimately will get sacrificed. Very cultish. How every good cult ends, I think, is some type of death trial. So, well done.
I always love when these things have like weird geometry and stuff to them. Like with it, so like with the description of the Minos, where it said its whole seeds with cursed iconography and broken logic. Like I'm imagining just like again, like going back to like that unknowable like non-Euclidean geometry and like Lovecraft and stuff, where like this strike cruiser is coming at you, but like your brain just cannot comprehend the angles that it's built at and everything. Like just something about it is just breaks your mind watching it.
Yeah.
So chapter appearance. Their chapter colors. Their warplate is quartered in jarring black and white, a maddening contrast that flickers under void light. Silver trim rings each edge like a cage, though nothing within it is restrained. No two suits are ever truly alike. Some bleed shadows, others whisper. The chapter badge. Their mark is a bisected skull, white on the left, black on the right, grinning from a black field. Often it writhes within the broken star of chaos, not as allegiance, but mockery. It is a warning, a dare, and a curse all at once.
Yeah, very cool color scheme. It would be such a chore to paint this army, but
Yeah.
What do you do? You got to do it for chaos. So, Jordan's muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. I guess, yeah, the way I'm looking at it online, the way people are painting it is like a lot of the armor is almost literally like split down the middle, which would be rather than painting individual pieces, you're like splitting some of the pieces down the middle in black and white. And that would be like to do that like straight line would be kind of tricky
Yeah.
or annoying, I guess. But
Yeah, and there's no good way to do it. Either you paint the model white and you try to go over it with black and you fuck up the white and you fuck up the whole thing, or you try to do black and cover it with white and you're just fucked either way.
yeah.
Yeah. I would start white and then paint the black over it personally.
Yeah,
Like,
that
yeah, with me doing a lot of yellow, I've touching up like the little errors in the line is easier than trying to paint over black with white every day.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. We'll jump now into the renegades and cults. At this point in the episode, I'd say it's a pretty safe bet that it's just theory crafting. We're gonna go over night houses, legions, cults, and a couple Xenos and a couple other things, but a lot of it's my own musings on how it would fit into it based off what we've seen. So let's do the renegades and cults. For renegades and cultists to follow Malice is to embrace a creed of utter rebellion, not just against the Imperium, but against all order, all gods, and even themselves. Unlike the followers of other chaos powers, those drawn to Malice are often born from the ashes of the broken causes, failed revolutions, betrayed uprisings, and disillusioned heresies that see no salvation in the warp. These are the cast-offs, the bitter remnants who spit on every banner, holy or profane. Their fall isn't seduction, it's a plunge into spite-fueled clarity. They do not seek favor, mutation, or demonhood. They seek destruction, starting with whatever deceived them last. As they descend into Malice's shadow, they shed names, hierarchies, and identity, becoming masked wretches or howling mobs painted in stark black and white, wielding scavenged weapons with manic fervor. Some act as assassins, others cults, or some act as assassins of other cults, others as saboteurs, infiltrating chaos strongholds only to detonate them from within. Their rituals are chaotic, often involving self-mutilation, screaming oaths to undo creation. They are not servants, they are the anti-faithful, the last and most dangerous heretics, following a god who hates gods and seeks only the unmaking of all things. Yeah, like, first of all, to even get a cult up and going for Malice, it's a hard thing. We've said it, it's that contradiction. How do you unify anarchy regardless of how we define it? You can't really. It's chaos, man.
Yeah, it seems like it takes a lot of circumstances coming together to get someone to that point of despair where they would fall to Malice.
Yeah, like that I think could happen pretty easily, especially in 40K. To be disillusioned if we were to kind of feel like one emotion was the big one tied to Malice. I know it doesn't work that way, but I feel like disillusionment is the one big one. You're just fed up with it all. But yeah, to like then make that cult, like, to get 10 people in a room all pissed off together that don't want to plan anything and just hate everyone, and one of those 10 people burnt down the room the night before, you're like, fuck! How can we have our meeting if Greg keeps burning down our meeting hall?
Yeah, organizing a cult of the most chaotic god.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, like, maybe this is a bit off the beaten path, but do you think like philosophers like Nietzsche or Albert Camus or some guys like that, the nihilists, sort of could they contribute to the power of Malice or like creating Malice in the warp?
I I would say no. At least as far as like from what I like my friends that are nihilists and like what I know of it is it a lot of them again this anecdotally take comfort in it. Like it is still a belief system. So it
Mm,
wouldn't necessarily be the same thing as like losing all hope in anything, giving into that despair. Um, because again, like a good friend of mine, Jason, like he finds like comfort and solace in the fact that like when he dies, that's just it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Like I
yeah.
could see it, I could see it driving somebody to like nihilistic tendencies driving someone to that point, but from like I guess like the philosophy standpoint of it in and of itself, I would say no.
Okay. Is that just because it's like there is almost like there is a logic to nihilism itself, and it is like a philosophical system, whereas like that is almost antithetical to what Malice is because he's not logic and he's not a system. He's just chaos.
Exactly, yeah, because these guys are sitting around and thinking about it again in a logical way. They're creating somewhat of a belief structure around it.
Yeah.
Um,
And
whereas
nihilism doesn't always have to be bad. Just because you know it's all ending and there's no point doesn't mean you can't enjoy what's currently happening. So that's
Yeah.
kind of an aspect
I,
too that.
I feel like existentialism and nihilism, maybe there's a Venn diagram or they cross over,
Mm.
but they sometimes get confused. I do feel like the whole thing where you kind of create your own meaning, like you have to create what is meaningful in life for you, is like more existentialism than it is nihilism. But maybe I'm certainly no expert in those philosophies, so uh don't quote me on that. And
but
I
I
could,
see what you're saying though. Like one could lead into the other. Like you understand that nothing really matters and
yeah,
everything's gonna end and it's fine. And then from that, going into the existentialism of well, if nothing matters, I'm going to do something that to me matters for at least right now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing is where I feel like if you become an existentialist, if you get like more into the, I don't know, the Dostoevsky sort of way of thinking as opposed to the Nietzsche way of thinking, it seems like then you've abandoned nihilism. You no longer believe in nihilism. It like, I don't know. It seems like, well, then are you really a nihilist if you do have, even if that meaning is like self created? It, are you still, do you still fit the definition of what a nihilist is? But I don't know.
That's yeah, I again like from this is from my surface level understanding of what it is. That's yeah.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Like it could be like a cyclical thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, let's get into beastmen. For beastmen to fall to Malice is a rare and terrifying aberration, for these creatures are almost always born into the worship of other chaos gods, living expressions of primal rage, mutation, and disorder. Yet, among their braying masses, there are some outcasts, even among outcasts, those who see the tribal chaos around them as a lie, who grow to hate the gods that made them monstrous. These are the broken, the betrayed, the ones who watch their herds torn apart by demonic lords or enslaved by sorcerers, and who come to a terrible clarity that all gods are tyrants, drawn by versions of black and white flame and the whisper of hatred colder than the warp itself. They cast aside totems and tribal fetishes and daub their fur in crude, opposing colors. They mutilate their own bodies to sever the gifts of the gods, becoming lean, gaunt shadows of their former selves. These malice touched beastmen no longer fight for territory or blood, but to erase everything: the gods who spawned them, the herds that rejected them, and even their own beast blooded nature. They move in silence, striking at shrines, desecrating both imperial and chaos icons alike. Feral agents of annihilation in the name of a god who offers only one reward: the end of all things. Oh, you're muted, Mark.
Oops. Yeah, so beastmen, they're these like abhuman beast human hybrids born of some funky way. We don't know how, we can guess. But they often fall to the chaos gods. Like, they all have these very unique and distinct variants. I was kind of thinking for beastmen just what it would look like for them. And yeah, that kind of concept of them dropping off all their fetishes, getting rid of anything that would define them. Because even normal beastmen are very like shamanic, almost very totemalistic, and like, yeah, you just take all that kind of religious stuff away, and yeah, you just go do chaos.
Yeah, for sure.
Up next, we'll do the night houses. For a night house to fall to Malice is to watch a lineage of honor and duty spiral into anarchy, fury, and self-destruction. Unlike the other gods of chaos, Malice does not tempt with promises of power or pleasure. He whispers of betrayal, hypocrisy, and futility of allegiances. A night house might begin its descent through deep internal division, a warwick succession, a betrayal of their liege world, or a bitter realization that their oaths serve only corrupt masters. Those most loyal fall the hardest, driven mad by the hypocrisy of what they've defended. Once turned, the house becomes a warband of renegade knights clad in stark black and white, their heraldry fractured and inverted. They reject the Imperium, chaos, and all other bonds, living only to destroy. Not only noble champions, these knights become isolated executioners, roaming war zones not for conquest, but to dismantle all systems, imperial, heretical, or Xenos. To them, every cause is a lie, and every war an opportunity to bring everything crashing down. Once they upheld order, they now wield their weaponry to unmake it. Knightly paragons transformed into apocalyptic marauders in the name of Malice.
Man, that would be pretty jarring, like a night house being converted to Malice, you know, like of anything that is like ordered and full of I don't know, meaning, it would be a night house, would it not?
Yeah, like one of the best ways to do away with like nihilism is like family ties and like knowing where you came from, like
Yeah.
knowing there's something before. So yeah, you know, all this, like they have meetings every day where they read off the 500 names of their ancestors and stuff like that. That provides so much meaning and value. And yeah, you would think that would help fight them off. And we don't have any examples of knights actually falling to Malice either.
Okay.
So like, you know, maybe it's possible, maybe it's not even.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay. Yeah, so it may never have even happened then.
Yeah. And like the other thing is I kind of read more on Malice or the Sons of Malice, it's like it always ends in death. And like,
Yeah.
to keep a knight running, you would have to have so many backhand tech priests doing stuff, monitoring ammunition. That how do you get the knight on and off a world? You know, that's a little different than a space marine. So even the logistics of that, like you're not gonna be able to manage that for long, even if you did fall.
100%. All right, let's get into the Titan legions. The Titan legion falling to Malice, an enigmatic and archaic chaos god, would be a cataclysmic event, both rare and horrifying. Malice, also known as Malal, thrives on rebellion, paradox, and the hatred of chaos itself. For a Titan legion to fall under his sway, it would likely begin with philosophical fracture, a slow burning disillusionment with the Imperium, perhaps driven by a campaign drenched in betrayal or a bitter realization of their expendability. Unlike other chaos corruptions driven by lust, rage, decay, or sorcery, Malice's influence would twist the Legion through nihilism and self-loathing, turning their sense of duty into a thirst for vengeance against all. Once fallen, the Titan engines would become avatars of contradiction. Colossal war machines wreathed in jagged black and white heraldry, wielding weapons that tear at reality itself. No longer bound by hierarchy or allegiance, these rogue god engines would roam like apocalyptic beasts, annihilating both Imperium and Chaos alike in a crusade of obliteration, pure, unreasoning, and absolute. They would not join the Dark Mechanicum, but stand apart, loathed even by other heretics, embodying the terrible purity of Malice's creed. Destroy all, even thyself. Yeah, a Titan, just a completely chaotic Titan on the battlefield. That would not be a fun thing to fight.
No, and I feel like for them it ends where they've shot their volcano so many times, volcano cannon so many times, they've cracked the planet of the core of the planet. They've cracked the surface, and the planet explodes on them. Like, I just feel like that's too much power to not have some level of control. That it's always going to end like at planet destruction levels.
Well, I mean, even a Titan is like to control a Titan is very difficult. Like your brain is wired into the machine, right? And like imagine you turn to a chaos force like Malice, and you yourself were not like disciplined and focused. Could you even control such a machine?
Yeah, or it's now just kind of went rogue on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what kind of horrors and yeah, just what kind of horrors would we see with that? Like it would be, man, it's hard to even imagine, you know.
Yeah. Fun. Xeno's followers. Malice hatred knows no borders, not a species, creed, or form. And while most of his known followers are human or once human, it is whispered that even some Xenos have felt his pull. Malice does not choose a servant based on lineage or allegiance. He is drawn instead to those consumed by rage, betrayal, and the desire to annihilate all systems of power, including their own. Among shattered,
he's very inclusive.
he is, yeah. We can all die together. Just come, drink the Kool-Aid.
He's the chaos god of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So
yes, yeah. He is indifferent to origin, caring only for the purity of purpose, the will to unmake. Where the other chaos gods twist followers to their vision, Malice simply watches as they destroy themselves and everything around them. That is that kind of cult. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I kind of never really thought about when Malice was birthed until this episode and all my years in this hobby. But I'm really thinking, yeah, he's a very new god, and there's not that many examples of him interacting with things. And yeah, definitely there might be aliens out there that's worshiping him, but I think it's still too soon for that.
Yeah, perhaps. But do you think that, like, you look at, say, how the orcs fight? Do you think there could be a little bit of Malal in the orcs, or do you think no? Is that too much of a stretch?
Yeah, you know, then you get into that whole if you kill somebody but kill perfectly, Slaanesh and Khorne territory. Now, the one big difference with orc is like Gork and Mork are
I know
directly tied, you know, where the power goes straight to them. But
yeah. But do we know, like, specifically, I'm not as familiar, like, where Gork and Mork are from, or is it more just legendary?
yeah, I would say, okay, yeah. Like, we know that they're caused by the orcs. We know that. When? Hard to say.
Yeah.
You know, how, all that, no, we don't know for sure. But we definitely know that they are some type of warp entity. But beyond that, we don't know a whole lot.
So, like, GW could hypothetically, like, perhaps tie tie them into Malal in some way, or maybe they're like demons of Malal or something like that. I don't know. Just like you could. There's a little bit of that like disorganized chaos in the orcs, so I don't. You could kind of see that.
Yeah, but at the same time, yeah, there definitely is a little bit of that. But at the same time, like orcs have a very strict hierarchy and stuff,
That's
and
true.
like
Yeah.
even their race itself is made of many species that are broken down into different little
True.
classes. But like if all the chaos gods are sitting in a room, they're having a chaos god annual destroy the universe party. I definitely think Gork and Mork and Malal would kind of be over in the corner together, making fun of the other chaos gods,
They get
throwing
along
stuff at
a
the
little better.
Eldar gods.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. All right, let's get into some of the notable servants of Malice. There are few famous champions of Malice, no towering demonic princes bearing his mark, and no legendary cult sung in the dark corners of the galaxy in his name. For such recognition would run counter to everything Malice represents. His followers do not seek fame or ascension, and even if they did, their god would offer nothing but silence in return. Malice is indifferent, not out of apathy, but out of principle. To acknowledge his servants, to elevate them, would be to indulge in the very structures he exists to unravel. His warriors are nameless destroyers, forgotten renegades, and cast off zealots who have turned their hatred into a weapon against all, including themselves. They leave no banners, no monuments, only ruin. And in that ruin, Malice stirs, not in praise, but in the quiet, gnawing truth that the only victory worth having is the one that leaves nothing behind. I hate to say this, but I get a little bit of like Marxism in this, even where there's just like a hatred of hierarchy and everything has to be equal. And also the if you look at like more modern iterations of Marxism, like critical theory, it's all about like breaking down existing structures of power, because it is those systems as it goes. Not saying I am a proponent of this view, but that it that the Marxist analysis should go beyond just like seizing the means of production, but into like every realm of life. Like you should eliminate things like the family because that creates a hierarchy between the parents and the children. You should destroy like religious structures. You should just anything where any person might have power or influence over another, it must be destroyed. And I feel like there's some of that in Malice, although it's not necessarily about equality, but it is about like destroying the hierarchy, if you will.
Yeah, definitely about destroying. Just like he doesn't care what happens after the destruction, for sure.
Yeah.
There's like an aspect of like, okay, so what are we as humans trying to do? We're ultimately trying to prolong our lives and stop entropy from happening to us. How do we do that? We create these structures, and okay, let's not murder each other because then, boom, all of a sudden, entropy will happen. I kill you, then you're gone, essentially. So yeah, it's for to remove all these boundaries and stuff, to just take it all away, it does revert it back to that like entropy state where it's there's nothing can thrive under those conditions where you're like equal with everyone else. And anyways. All right, well, I think we're gonna have a call in here. Fuzz was caught in a little storm there and lost internet power, but we'll do some call-ins, and we got a little bit more in our notes here, just a little bit about Unbound. Up first, we got Skeleton. Give me a little nod if you're ready. All right. Hey, yo, welcome to the show. I think we got a mute button here.
How you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, there we go.
Good.
Very good. So before we go into the Unbound portion, what do you feel about Malice and his followers?
I think he's a really great chaos god. I wish we could see more of him. While we were kind of talking about things, I kind of had this imagining about what would it be like if the Inquisition were tracking down these feelings of apathy, disillusionment. It's a whole new level of just what's the word? Totalitarian for them to go over and go like, you've got to be
Yeah.
enthusiastic
Yeah,
or you're gonna
now you
fall.
can't dredge your feet anymore in the factory. Like if we catch you feeling that way, like that, you're gonna summon a demonic incursion on us.
Yeah, you've now got to work, 18, 20 hours a day with a smile.
Oh God!
So I think it would be really cool to, see him come back in a big regard and give the Inquisition something new to fight.
Do you think the Inquisition should make a new branch to fight Malice of the Inquisition? Like it would be an order minoris or whatever. But should it get its own kind of dedicated?
I think so. It's different enough from a lot of the other chaos gods and feelings that just going down and it's far more of a propaganda thing. Whereas, the other order minoris are going after, rituals, demonic summonings, things of that nature. While going after apathy feels like much more of a propaganda thing that they could be doing.
Sure. Oh, I love it. You always got to be smiling lest they will exterminate us your planet. Who frowned? Who did it? Fuck.
It might actually make the Imperium a little bit nicer if they've got to realize that, people actually have to give a damn to avoid chaos.
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Do you ever, I'm sure you guys have all had that one friend who just like doesn't seem like they care about anything, like they just don't get too excited about anything. And it's like, oh, you're serving Malal. I see how it is.
God,
You
that was like
apathetic
middle school,
bastard.
high school for me, just being surrounded by those kids.
Yeah.
The height of emo. That's what I think of Malice is he's the god for emos.
Yeah, for sure. Can we just burn it all down already? Gosh, I don't want to eat my sandwich.
Yeah. Let me smoke a cigarette, Mom.
Oh man. Yeah. It's a fun concept, the cult of the doomed ones, but like like you said, it's kind of a missed opportunity that we'll never really see more expansion on, unfortunately.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know. Maybe there's a hope in bringing it back in another concept, a non-trademark name.
Well, they tried, I feel like, bringing it back with the Dark King. Where the Dark King is very similar, where it's a god who's supposed to be against the other gods. And it's the Emperor who transforms into the Dark King. And cover your ears for spoilers, but basically, mid-transformation, he pulls out. But he gets like PTSD from the warp and stuff, and he's no longer the same. He's super apathetic, and now the Dark King kind of transforms from like a being against the Chaos Gods to just a being against everything.
When did this happen in the timeline? Is this part of the Primarch project?
Yeah, so this would have happened during the Siege of Terra. So right at the end of the Horus Heresy, right before that final battle, this kind of happened.
Oh, I gotcha. Not quite there yet.
Yeah. And like, we were speculating, like, did Malice come around in 40K? And if that's the case, it's like, it would be a very different god. It wouldn't be Malice in that case, because Malice wasn't even really around then.
Mm-hmm.
But
in 40K?
In 30K, like during
yeah.
the Horus Heresy.
Yeah. Well, could they write it like hypothetically? Could they do like yeah, he started out as a Dark King and then eventually transforms into Malice much later on.
Well, I think the problem with Malice was the name. There's copyright infringement or something like that, and then so they
Really?
uh,
On the
you
word
know,
Malice? Come on.
it
You
might
can't
have been
copyright that.
Malal.
Oh, okay.
And then they tried to change it to Malice a little bit, but it was still funky or whatever. But from what I've kind of gathered, maybe that's another great question for Mr. Jervis Johnson is like, what happened there? Why did this sweet concept get dropped?
It is pretty cool. I think it's very unique too. Like I can't think of another property who has a concept character like this. It's very, to me, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Good old Malice. Any other thoughts there before we move on?
No, just donate to the Patreon. Join us on Discord.
Shameless shills.
Yeah, I'm not even
buy
picking you
everything
yet.
on
But you're
Redbubble.
chilling.
Your girlfriend will appreciate a T-shirt.
Yeah, women love Lorehammer shirts.
But you guys have a great evening.
You can chill with us for a bit longer if you want. We got a couple more stuff, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
all right. Yeah. Let's move on to Unbound.
Okay.
I'll set up the concept. We have talked about it a few times, but we'll set up the concept. Chaos Unbound is a concept that embraces the raw, untamed energies of the warp, focusing not on the traditional gods or the entities that rule over it, but rather on the primal forces themselves. Followers of Chaos Unbound seek to harness and worship the unfiltered chaotic energy that courses through the immaterium, viewing it as a source of the ultimate power and freedom. For them, the warp is not merely a realm of the gods and demons, but a living, breathing force that reshapes reality and offers limitless potential. They believe in the liberation that comes from surrendering to the chaotic tides, allowing their minds and souls to become vessels for the tumultuous, ever-changing flow of raw energy. In this worship, they reject structure, order, embracing chaos as both force of destruction and chaos. So yeah, like if chaos undivided is when you worship the four chaos gods, like you worship one or more, essentially. Chaos unbound is where you're not worshiping any of them. You're just drawing from the powers of the warp and using them. This is kind of the concept I've been developing a little bit. Just that distinction between unbound or undivided and unbound is really kind of needs to separate a little bit.
A little tricky.
Yeah, a little clarity, because like the powers of the warp, while they're weird to work with, there are some rules to follow, and they just like if you have an undivided demon prince with two gods granting it demonhood status, like which one does he serve? Where does his power come from? There's weird shenanigans like that. So yeah, just that little bit of separation. Worshipping the unbound as like a cultist or like a human or any mortal follower is pretty easy. It's almost like the uninitiated or like the punk kids playing with a Ouija board in their basement. You're not summoning corn, but you're definitely summoning some entity of something dark and something that's messing with you. Unbound, it's like, yeah, you can get this power, but it's not coming from the big stuff, but it's still this dark energy.
From like more of the nature of the warp itself. I think there are all sorts of creatures. There's the warp storms, all that. Would it just be drawing the power from that rather than the bigger demons, the bigger gods?
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe like there is like a minor entity god out there that they're worshiping or drawing from his. No, they're not drawing from any. That's the whole point of Unbound. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, they're not drawing from any. Just like that raw power.
Oh, that's so cool. It kind of reminds me of Grey Jedi in Star Wars. They're not really subscribing to anything. They're just letting the force flow through them how it flows through them and not really worrying too much about the morality or picking a side in the situation.
Yeah, this is the grim dark version of that for sure.
Mhm.
All right. Before we get into the next section, we'll just get into this comment quick here from Rambo. Even though the Emperor didn't fully turn, would he have come close enough that he released all that power he may have left the echo of Malal/Malice in the warp, and that's how they are born? And this is reference just to our previous discussion about the Dark King and Malal and all that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thoughts, guys?
Ooh, I like that. I mean, just having this kind of seed of a chaos god sitting over
Yes.
for 10,000 years. Maybe, unlike Slanesh, where it's all at once, he's just drawing in all these feelings
Yeah.
from the darker Imperium and becoming more and more powerful over time till he basically comes out of a cocoon and becomes full-on Malice.
Yeah.
That's a neat concept.
Yeah,
And
like
I could see it becoming canon quite easily because it just kind of flows just perfectly.
yeah, and like they're so similar, these two gods, in their mindset and what they want and their goals, and even just the word entropy for both of them is thrown around a whole lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I like that where it's like, yeah, the Emperor during that was like the conception point of Malice, and then 10,000 years later is the actual like birth, you know.
Yeah.
Some notable followers of Unbound for Space Marines are the Night Lords, the Iron Warriors, although, I like to think that they could follow Malice, but they definitely follow Unbound. They're not worshipping any of the Chaos Gods. And the Alpha Legion as well. I
Yeah,
think there
those
might be
seem.
one others, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if Russ ever fell, he'd be unbound.
Yeah. No, he would be a rune priest. He wouldn't use the powers of the warp. How dare you? Yeah, the Unbound would consist of renegades and cults. Like I said, I feel like this is just like uninitiated people, mostly people that don't really understand the powers of the warp, people that don't have a scope of what they're drawing energies from, and they're not summoning the big bads. It's just, yeah, they're tapping into this energy reserve that they don't quite even know how they're doing. So that's kind of what the cults, I feel like, would look like, just kind of people looking for power. Night houses, Titan legions, sure, they could fall. Why not? What they would look like. Yeah, Unbound definitely gives its servants blessings and stuff and powers, but it just feels like it's so personal and chaotic, almost like even more so than the other ones.
Yeah, it feels far more street level too. Like this is Unbound is for like the common man of the
Yeah,
Imperium. That
yeah,
these are the organizations that you might see pop up in a hive city where among more educated people, they might fall into chaos in a much more ritualized manner because they do have that access to information and all the rituals
exactly.
that they can partake in.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I was able to find one notable Xenos follower that would probably make a good Unbound race called the Uvoth. We'll learn about them real quick.
Yeah, so they're a warp worshipping xenospecies, and they built an empire of corrupted humans and were defeated in the Angevin Crusade, together with the Baal Childer after the homeworlds of both species were destroyed by Exterminatus. They were the last resistance to imperial rule in the Calyx expanse, which signaled the end of the Angevin Crusade and the birth of the Calixis sector. So, some of the history there. Prior to the 4th century of the 39th millennium, the Uvoth were a blight upon the Calyx expanse, enslaving worlds through the use of vile sorcery. They are known to have expanded the lives and souls of corrupted human slaves in order to build the horrors of horrors such as the Calyx Hell worlds. During the Angevin Crusade, the warp-ridden Yuvath were their tormented slave armies. With their tormented slave army, were sent to battle with the Imperial Crusade forces and bled them for decades until the Xenos' ultimate extinction at the hands of Drusus and the Adeptus Astartes. In the aftermath of the Angevin Crusade, the Yuvath, alongside the remains of their Xenos slave armies, as well as their techno-warp constructs, were scattered. These weapons of war were broken and dying across the expanse, all of which serve as grim reminders of this dark empire that are hidden in the shadowy corners of the void and are seemingly lost forever.
Cool. So that seems like these guys definitely use the warp and kind of technology and cross it. But yeah, like they're not putting bloodletters into their technology. They're just putting like, just imagine your laser isn't powered by a demon. It's just powered by warp energy.
Straight conduit coming from your gun.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
That's sick.
They got a bunch of wild technology we'll talk about. The starships of the Yuvath are made of incomprehensible construction and do not seemingly require the same components as more mundane craft. Their warp technology utilizes components that are not powered in a way that could be understood by humans. Among the components used by their vessels include gravity sails that can touch the forces that bind stellar systems together, thus allowing the ship to move with agility as well as grace. Their space-based weaponry includes void skin rupture cannons that are both strange yet terrible abominations. Though little is truly known of them, they seemingly function by firing munitions through the warp, with the warheads only emerging into real space just before they strike their target. A more dangerous... That is fucking cool. I love those kind of weapons.
Yeah, that's brutal. Like point defense, counter missiles, fighters, all
Nothing.
completely useless. It just pops up a couple meters off your hull.
Boom. While more dangerous weapons is the immaterium energy arc that generated from the core of the Yuvath vessels, from which no armor can defend against their onslaught. Yeah, this is kind of like that laser I mentioned, where it's like they got this super warp-powered core that they can also shoot off. They utilize the Yuvath's crystal blades, which function as powerful force weapon. Dark energy constructs are one of the weapons used by the Yuvath that include the Whisper, Void Wasps, and the Dark Lament. Void Wasps are strange sleep craft that are named due to sinister amalgamations of black crystal shards that are bound together with pulsing dark energy. These craft move with bizarre grace and utilize terrible weapons against their targets. Shard spiders, another deadly construct fashioned from bruised purple crystal with about the size of a large dog. With 12 legs and a tiny central body, they scuttle about with alarming speed, used by the Yuvath to maintain their structures. They have set the needle-like mandibles that they can alternatively use to mend broken crystal and plunge into soft flesh. And the final thing is the Bone Wardens were created by the Yuvath primarily to act as watchmen, guardians for the void crypts and solar fortresses. The Bone Wardens have no physical form and instead resides in a collective of dead matter, most often corpses or other once living remains. For this reason, many are found in rooms stacked with corpses in order to repair any damage done to them. The corpses are held together by ribbons and arcs of crackling black energy. The air around them charged with constant flashes of midnight electricity and the smell of burning flesh. Acting as a single mass, the corpses form a cloud of grasping, clawing hands and mouths that whirled through the air. What a fucking creature those things are. This like abomination of flesh and like dark warp matter or dark warp energy.
Yeah, take Frankenstein, ratchet him up to 11, and
Yeah.
add like 50 more people.
Fuck. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I mean all all this science fiction like all began with Frankenstein, so I feel like it's apt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he's got to be in there somewhere in 40K.
Well, he's everywhere. The Astartes are Frankensteins. The God Emperor is a Frankenstein. They're all Frankensteins.
No. Frankenstein's all the way down.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, what an episode. Lots of fun stuff in there. The Uvoth is a real thing, by the way. I didn't make those guys up for the Unbound, but I did feel like they would fit really good with the Unbound.
Yeah,
and they had some
it makes sense that they would go Unbound. They don't seem to really use it for anything much more than their own technology. There's not, at least from what I heard, not much of a ritual aspect of what they're doing. So it's cool to have like an Unbound race that can fully utilize those powers.
Yeah, and they had a couple wild aspects if you were trying to ever model them. Like they use Xeno slave armies, which adds a whole lot of variety. They also have like all their weird constructs and stuff. So, man, there's a whole lot there.
Yeah, I'm even looking on their like 40K wiki, and they're bizarre. There's a whole bunch of stuff to them. That's yeah, interesting. I'll have to dig more into that rabbit hole later.
Yeah. Cool, but as for now, I think we kind of close out this show. You know, how do we do this? There's not many models you could buy. I guess you could go to Merlin's Miniatures and use promo code Lorehammer and try to buy some Sons of Malice. You just buy some Chaos Space Marines. Sure, why not? Go for it. I won't stop you. Go check out Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast. It's been fun. I like reading lore. Share your lore.
Yeah. And don't forget to check out the Star Lores with an L podcast, Star Lores, Christian and I, little Star Wars podcast, if that's what you're into. But if not, screw you. We don't want you there.
We don't want you then. No girls either, by the way.
Oh, definitely no girls.
No
girls allowed.
Well, we got some Patreon shout-outs. Jake, Xeno supporter, Oliver, Golden Eagle 25. All you guys are the real MVPs. You keep the show going with your monetary support. So thank you so much for joining. It doesn't cost that much, man. Just go join up. It's not that painful. You can do it.
And big shout out to Skeleton for filling in the rest of the show here.
Yeah,
absolutely. Anytime.
Final closing words, Skeleton. Lead us off with something to think about, really deep, something that
something existential and maybe nihilistic even.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too apathetic to really come up with anything good. But you guys have a great evening. Then end with that little Malice bit.
Yeah, everyone have a good night. Adios.